Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Franchise Euphoria tip of the day. Really excited for this one. I've got a really interesting tip that we're going to talk about today, all based around home-based franchise systems. These are all the rage these days, especially with online being what it is and people really getting into the digital side of things and working from home. So have some real interesting thoughts on those kind of systems and whether or not they're worth it, whether or not a lot of them are just scams or ripoffs, or whether or not they can actually be profitable businesses. So really excited to get to that. But first, want to take a minute and just thank, I've gotten so many reviews and ratings on iTunes for this podcast, and I've never really taken the time to thank people and read off some of the reviews. So I wanted to go ahead and do that. We've got one from Craig at winningyouthcoaching.com who says, law expert helps entrepreneurs. Started listening to a few podcasts, really good info. Just listened to John Lee Dumas interview and it ignited my passion. See, I love that. Thank you, Craig. I really want to ignite people's passions and make sure that what they're getting into is something that they care deeply about, because times get tough when you own a small business and you've got to have that passion to carry you through. Another review. Hey, Josh, I'm loving your podcast. This is from Taylor at Overseas Property Insider Podcast. He says, hey, Josh, I am loving each episode you are putting out on your Franchise Euphoria podcast each week. Well, thank you, Taylor. I really appreciate that. See, we've got one from, looks like Dr. C.K. Bray. It says, helpful and insightful. This podcast will help with anyone involved in franchising. There are some very helpful and creative ideas that can help any business. Well, thank you so much. I just love the comments and the feedback and the reviews that I've been getting. So please don't be bashful. Go to iTunes and be sure to leave your feedback or email me at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Always love to engage with my listeners. And so let's get to it here. Quick tip of the day is around home-based franchises. You know, these have really blown up over the last few years. I think it goes hand in hand with the whole idea of a lot of people just want to work from home. I think it's easier. I think it's viable now. And the market, I think, will prove that out. It is easier than ever to launch a business from your home than ever before. But the thing is, with a home-based franchise, I mean, they run the gamut. You have tutoring franchises, you have cleaning franchises, vending machine franchises, coaching systems, senior care services. I mean, they really run the gamut in terms of offerings out there for your home-based franchise, but you got to be really, really careful. And I put together 5 things to look into before you buy a home-based franchise system, because quite frankly, they can be very, very attractive because they're not that expensive, especially as compared to a normal, or not even a normal, but to a regular retail brick and mortar franchise system where the cost is a lot higher because you have the build out of the brick and mortar store. Whereas for a home-based franchise, you're essentially buying their brand, you're buying their name recognition, you're buying their systems and their ongoing support. So 5 things that you must look into before you buy one of these. First of all, how long have they been in business? You know, there's a lot of these systems that keep popping up, almost like they're popping up overnight, turning themselves into franchises and then selling themselves as if they have something significant to offer. And my honest opinion on that is most franchise systems, if the underlying business has not been around for a while, it's probably not going to have that much to offer. Now, there are certainly exceptions to that, but most businesses that last in franchising have evolved their system and built up their brand over time. Many businesses, before they would even consider the franchise model, would have, in the brick and mortar sense, at least 2 locations operating. So they've proven out a system. Now they can go into the franchise model where they really have something to offer. Well, you don't necessarily have that when you're looking at the home-based franchise systems. So I think you need to be really, really careful about that and definitely dive in and find out how long they have been in business, find out if they have changed their systems at all through the course of time of how long they've been in business, but definitely look at that component of it because it can raise some red flags. Number 2, what documents and flow systems do you actually get in exchange for your franchise fee and any other fees that they're charging you? You know, it's so important when you're buying a home-based franchise to really, really pay attention to that, because in some instances, you're paying a lot of money to essentially get an initial series of documents that lays out the system, and that's it. I mean, you don't get the ongoing training, you don't get the ongoing support, because in some of these, quite frankly, there's just not much that's there to be ongoing for. And so after a while, you might start questioning yourself and saying, why am I paying back this royalty on a continuing basis when really I'm not getting any more support for this system? So it's really important to know not just what you're getting at the outset, but what you're going to get on a continuous basis. Number 3, online presence and online strategy. This is huge, not only for home-based franchises, but for the franchise sector in whole. But we're going to focus today just on the home-based franchises. I can't tell you how important it is to have a really, really clear idea of the online presence and strategy of your home-based franchisor before you buy the franchise. So you need to know not only what they're doing online, how are they utilizing their website, how are they utilizing social media to further the brand recognition, to further the franchise's goals, and then most importantly, how are they leveraging that to help their franchisees? You know, there's a big divide in franchising right now where you have the franchisors in some instances doing a lot to promote the national brand, but very little to support the franchisees in their local areas. And for your purposes, especially when you have a home-based franchise, oh boy, you really, really need to get that support. I mean, that can be some of the most valuable things that your franchisor can do for you, especially when you do not have a brick and mortar location. It is going to be absolutely key that you dominate in the online game and you dominate in social media and you find that way to engage. And you must know where your franchisor stands from that perspective. Number 4, and I touched upon this a little bit earlier, and it's kind of touched upon this throughout, is the actual continuing support that you get. In any franchise system, it's important, but especially in a home-based system where, as an example, with a tutoring franchise, there's lots of great tutoring franchise systems out there, but you need to make sure that you're getting updated documentation on a continuous basis. You need to make sure that they're constantly working to make the system more efficient and better for you as the franchisees. As I said, you need to know what they are actually doing to help you along the way. Really, from a perspective of you want to make sure that you're just not paying a bunch of money and a continuing royalty just to get the information up front. Because if that's all you're getting, quite frankly, it's not a good system. Number 5, you really need to compare everything that you're getting and the totality of the system against what the upfront fee is. I hear a lot of people who, and I speak with a lot of people who get really enticed by the home-based franchise because they've researched the franchise industry and they see how expensive it can be to get into a traditional franchise model. And then when they see, a franchise for under $10,000, I mean, it's exciting. I think it leads people sometimes, though, to believe that they can get this fantastic system, fantastic support for $10,000, and they're going to be on their way to success. It's really not going to work out that way. And any business you have, whether it's home-based, whether it's brick and mortar, takes effort, takes work. And in some instances, your home-based franchise may be harder than a brick and mortar franchise. After all, you're going to have to deal with distractions. You're going to have to really be the type of person who's organized and focused and scheduled and can make sure to balance everything so that you're focused on your business at the right times. I have definitely seen situations where people buy home-based franchises and then they wonder 6 months, a year out why they've gone broke. Well, they've never taken the time to schedule out their days. They've never taken the time to put their own goals in place. Yeah, they have the systems that the franchisor has provided to them. Yeah, they have the documentation and they have something that they can provide, but they weren't organized enough themselves. They weren't disciplined enough themselves to actually make that happen. So that's really, really important. And you just need to really factor all of that into what you are actually getting in exchange for the fee. So anyways, those are the 5 things to look for or look into before you buy a franchise. Again, let me just recap. How long have they been in business? Number 1. Number 2, what documents and systems do you actually get? Number 3, their online presence and online strategy. Number 4, what kind of continuing support do you get? And number 5, compare all of this stuff against the upfront franchise fee. Well, guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, I'd love to hear from you. Josh at franchiseeuphoria.com. And until the next episode, keep on doing that research, keep on doing your due diligence, and trust me, you can never look too much into a franchise system before you buy. You will know when it's the right time, and you'll also know if you're kind of short-sighting yourself on the due diligence. Do not put your life savings into a franchise unless you have walked through all of the things you need to consider before you buy a franchise. If you want to learn more information on that, please, you can go to Amazon.com. You can check out my ebook called What to Know Before You Buy a Franchise. It is a detailed 47-page book that really walks you through everything that you need to be thinking about before you buy a franchise. Well, thanks again. You can look forward to a great interview this week on Thursday. I believe we have Marcus Sheridan, who's got an incredible story. The Sales Lion is what he calls himself. Got an amazing story. I think you'll really, really love that interview. And we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.